We often talk about origin stories as these singular moments of creation, a spider bite, a gamma bomb, a super soldier serum. But sometimes an origin isn't about creation, it's about disruption. It's about a noise so loud and so violent that it shatters the silence of an entire nation. Today, we're looking at a villain who is literally the inciting incident made flesh. He's the bullet that created the Black Panther, the colonial ghost haunting Wakanda, and a man who hated his own humanity so much he traded it away to become a living frequency. Turn up the volume because things are about to get loud. Welcome back to Marvel Echo Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and today we're tuning into a frequency of one of the most underrated yet consequential villains in the entire Marvel library, Ulysses Klaue. Now, if you only know him from the MCU, played by the brilliant Andy Serkis with that mixtape of dropping swagger, you might think of him as just this greedy arms dealer. But the comic book version? He is something far stranger and, frankly, far more terrifying. To understand Klaue, you have to look at his family tree. And speaking as a military brat myself, knowing where you come from shapes who you are. But in Klaue's case, his heritage is pure nightmare fuel. His father was Colonel Fritz Klaw, a member of the Blitzkrieg squad led by Baron Strucker in World War II. So Ulysses wasn't raised in a vacuum, he was raised in the shadow of the Third Reich. But here's the twist. Ulysses didn't want to be a soldier. He wanted to be a scientist. He represents that shift from the Golden Age Nazi villain to the Silver Age mad scientist. He became obsessed with applied sonics. He had this theory that sound waves could be solidified. Imagine building a wall, or a hammer, or an elephant out of nothing but noise. It's wild, 1960s pseudoscience, but he believed in it. The problem was, to make sound solid, or stable, he needed a specific element to absorb the vibration. Vibranium. This is where the story crashes into the legacy of the Black Panther mythos. As we discussed back in episode 11, T'Challa's origin is defined by the murder of his father T'Chaka. Well, Klaw's the man who pulled the trigger. In Fantastic Four number 53, way back in 1966, Klaw leads a team of mercenaries into Wakanda. He isn't there to negotiate, he's there to take. It's a classic colonial mindset. He sees this African nation not as a sovereign state, but as a resource deposit waiting for European genius to exploit it. When King T'Chaka refuses to yield to the Great Mound, Klaw orders his men to open fire. Now pause for a second. Think about this ripple effect of that one order. That gunshot didn't just kill a king, it ended Wakanda's isolation. It forced them into a global stage. But the most important moment happens seconds later. T'Challa, who's just a kid at this time, watches his father die. And instead of freezing, he grabs one of Klaw's own sonic blasters, a weapon Klaw brought to conquer the savages, and fires it. He shatters Klaw's right hand. I love the irony in this. Klaw brought the weapon, but T'Challa brought the justice. Klaw flees, bleeding and maimed, and that injury defines him forever. He replaces his hand with a sonic emitter prosthetic, which becomes his signature look. But the physical transformation was just the start. 10 years later, as seen in Fantastic Four number 56, Klaw returns. But he's losing his grip. His base is crumbling, he's been beaten by the Panther again, and he makes the choice that is arguably one of the most disturbing moments in Marvel history. He leaps into his own massive sonic converter device. He essentially commits metaphysical suicide. He shreds his biological body, his bones, his blood, his organs, gambling that his mind is strong enough to hold his consciousness together as pure energy. And it works. He emerges as a being of living sound. This is the Klaw we know today. He's immortal because you can't kill a sound. You can only silence it. He can form giant red constructs out of thin air, often creating these crimson elephants and gorillas, which is this twisted, racist caricature of Africa he tried to conquer. But there is a catch. He requires extreme mental focus to maintain his form. If he gets distracted, or if his confidence wavers, he literally falls apart. This leads to his role in the 1984 Secret Wars event. By this time, Klaw has been dispersed and reformed so many times that his mind is fractured. He becomes this tragic, babbling court jester for Dr. Doom. He's speaking in rhymes, repeating commercial jingles. It's like tuning a radio dial through a nightmare. It really highlights the horror of his existence. He traded his humanity for power, and now he's just the echo of a man trapped in a state of constant noise. But don't get me wrong, even as a jester, he's dangerous. It was Klaw's subconscious whispers that eventually destabilized Doctor Doom when he stole the Beyonder's power. So in a weird way, the Mad Klaw saved the universe just by being too annoying to ignore. So we're going to fast forward a bit just like we always do to catch you up how Klaw evolved from the Silver Age monster into a modern geopolitical threat. For a long time, Klaw was stuck in that villain of the week role. He'd show up, scream at the Fantastic Four, get dissipated, and repeat. But everything changed in 2005 with Reginald Hudlin's run on Black Panther. We moved away from the mad scientist trope and leaned hard into the real-world implications of who Klaw is. Hudlin reinvented him as a ruthless, specialized mercenary, a political assassin working for the military-industrial complex. The story retconned the death of T'Chaka slightly, framing it not just as a robbery gone wrong, but as a sanctioned hit. Klaw was hired by a shadowy cabal of nations who wanted Wakanda's economy broken because T'Chaka refused to play ball with the West. It grounded Klaw in a more gritty, uncomfortable reality. He wasn't just a guy in a costume anymore. He was a symbol of Western imperialism and the real-world exploitation of African resources. This era also gave us the Coalition of the Willing. Klaw realized he couldn't take Wakanda alone, so he unionized. He gathered teams of villains, Rhino, Batroc, Radioactive Man, each representing a different foreign power trying to carve up Wakanda. It was a literal scramble of Africa, played out with supervillains. Klaw was the ringleader, using racial slurs and dismissive rhetoric to psychologically attack T'Challa, trying to prove that Wakanda was nothing more than a lucky tribe sitting on a gold mine. It was visceral, and it made defeating him feel incredibly necessary. Then we see the ripple effect reach the cinematic universe. While the MCU killed him off pretty quickly in the Black Panther movie, that version of the character was heavily influenced by his modern mercenary take. And I have to mention, the MCU gave a brilliant nod to his comic history when Klaue mentions his SoundCloud mixtape. This is such a perfect update to his old title, The Master of Sound. He's still a disruptor, still a troll, just using digital noise instead of sonic waves. In the current comics era, specifically looking at the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, the recent From the Ashes status quo, Klaw has evolved again. He's become less of a man and more of a metaphysic sonic scar. In the Avengers of the New World arc, he transformed into this massive wall of sound, a literal monster feeding on the collective trauma and fear of the Wakandan people. He's no longer just fighting T'Challa physically, he's fighting the idea of Wakanda. He represents the past that refuses to die, the echo of colonization that keeps reverberating no matter how advanced Wakanda becomes. As we head into 2026, Klaw remains his persistent background hum, always there, waiting for the silence to break so he can scream again. It's fascinating to think that a character who started out as a guy with a funny radar dish on his hand has become such a profound symbol of generational trauma. He is the noise that prevents peace. So I'll leave you with this question. If Klaw is the living sound, and sound requires a medium to travel, does he only exist because T'Challa and Wakanda keep engaging with him? Is he the villain, or is he just the echo of their own pain reflecting back at them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. I hope this deep dive gave you a new appreciation for the Master of Sound and why he matters so much more than just being a punching bag for the Avengers. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe or follow so you don't miss any of our future episodes. We've got some massive characters lined up and you don't want to miss them. Leaving a like and a 5-star review really helps the podcast grow and helps other fans like you find us. And please leave a comment. Tell me which character you want to cover next, or your favorite Klaw moment. And for more content, including full deep dive articles, reading guides, and infographics, make sure you visit our website in the links below. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.